All right, season started. First race of the season at Woolwine, Bootlegger's Blitz. And we've been waiting for this all winter long. Long days on the road in the cold wind, snow and ice, and long days on the trainer, which are brutal. But Nino has held tough, got all the training in that you can expect for any kid his age and then some. And so we get at the start line here, and you can see Nino had a little bit of a slow start, and we're going to kind of protect some of the juvenile kids' names. But the green bike, his first name is Simon. We'll just go with that. Simon is a incredible rider, third place in nationals last year, and you can see him take off like a rocket into the single track. And just to the left of Nino, you see in the white jersey, that's Mr. Sebastian. Sebastian was the champion last year in the division. Super solid rider. And so they're sprinting out for the placement into the woods, going into the single track for about a 6.5 mile race loop. This kind of little tidbit of information is for Nino's family and friends and followers that like watching Nino progress through the ranks of cycling but don't know a lot about cycling. The way we start these races are the faster categories go first, and that's typically done by the ranking according to their license, and then we utilize their age to kind of determine how fast they are. Coincidentally, the 9 and 10-year-olds the past couple of years have been one of the fastest groups out of all of this particular wave. I really don't know how they're that fast, but there's 3 or 4 riders in that group of kids from all over North Carolina and Virginia, and when they show up, they are as fast as many of the young teenagers. But because you kind of base off of the age, you let the older kids go first. As a result of that, these 9 and 10-year-olds within no time end up catching most, if not all, of the other riders. And that tends to happen in inconvenient spots along the trail, usually on a significant uphill that's steep, or a technical area that's full of rocks or logs or something along that line. That being said, the little section you just saw a second ago, Simon was in front, Nino was in second, Sebastian was in third, and they end up coming up on a kid that is new to mountain biking. Glad he's out there, but the junior kids, the 9 and 10-year-olds, caught him so fast and got him in a spot that was tight, narrow, uphill and steep, and it kind of was a little bit of a jumble right there. They navigated through it well, but you're going to continue to see that multiple times throughout this race. So for the rest of this video, I'm kind of going to narrate some of the parts of the trail where significant action took place, whether it was attacks, defensive moves from either Nino or his competitors, or areas where there were mishaps or things that probably Nino needs to work on. This is kind of like a memory book for Nino and I, and maybe for some of y'all. It's kind of interesting how some of these kids get into cycling, and if you look through the years, past and to present day now, some of these people are now representing America in the Olympics, and who knows what little Nino will end up being, or Sebastian or Simon or any of the other kids out there on the trail. But they've got bundles of talent, and I truly believe the sky is unlimited for many of them. And I think it would be really neat if one day we look back at some of these videos and we see somebody that's representing the United States of America at the Olympics or international competition, and you can see where they were at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. So follow along with this video. It's going to be, I don't know, about probably 40 or so minutes long. But if you kind of are interested in cycling or just interested in following Nino, you're going to get to learn a few things about racing and get to see some interesting perspectives from the camera today. On this particular trail, we put it in a different angle just to kind of just show different stuff. Personally, I liked it better on the helmet, but it's a little bit of head weight. And so we're just trying different things, and give us some feedback if you like this particular view. Some people like it just because of the different perspective, but it definitely made for a different angle for sure. So follow along. Please like and subscribe to Nino's channel. And let's see what the action brings here. I think it's a pretty exciting race, almost to the very end. So what I was saying is it's kind of action-packed, and there's always something, especially at the beginning of these races, that these riders have to navigate and figure out how to problem solve on the fly. As you see right there, another rider that's probably unfamiliar with the trail and racing gets into a steep section, probably in the wrong gear, and ends up having to stop or get stalled out. Kind of an inconvenience and unfortunate circumstance, but there's Nino and Sebastian that's directly behind, and Simon was fortunate enough to be able to pass him in the spot before the hill, and that's just the way racing works. And so Simon goes on, as you can see, and Nino and Sebastian ended up getting completely stuck behind the rider. Fortunately, Sebastian and Nino are both very talented and were able to unclip from their pedals. They have lock-in pedals to the bike. They were able to unclip without falling over, and fortunately then they had to take off running, both of them. And you can see Nino is in a very narrow section of trail and he's trying to clip back into his pedals and having a difficult time with that because you're in a hurry, you're panicking, your competition that you're there to race has left you, and here you are in the middle of a trail and you're fighting with a shoe with a clip about the size of a quarter, and it's like threading a needle when you're in stress. But Nino was able to figure it out. Sebastian was professional, patient, and both were kind of encouraging each other by saying, come on, let's go and let's catch up to the guy. And so you can see Nino saying, come on, Sebastian, me and you, we probably can catch him. And from that point on, I'm going to call it a dig or burn a match, whatever you want to call it in the world of cycling, but it's when you reach in kind of to your inner self and pull out that will that only few people have. And he hits what's a pretty powerful sprint for any kid, but most certainly an 8-year-old. And within just about 30 seconds or a minute, in one of the steepest sections of the trail, Nino was able to bring back Simon and get him back into view.
You okay, kid?
So coming up here, you're going to see one of the first attacks throughout the race. When watching the video for the first time, it really caught me off guard because when you ask Nino a question about a race, he really won't tell you any answers. But anyways, this is a steep section of trail, probably around a 9-10% grade. It's fairly rocky and bumpy. And if you know anything about Nino cycling, he's really talented all around, but where he is the best is climbing. And his power to weight ratio to be his age is absolutely insane. And so when he wants to, which is rare, but when he wants to hit a sprint on a climb, to be honest with you, it's even sometimes difficult for me to stay with him. And I'm not just saying, I'm not being a proud dad, I'm telling you, it's actually sometimes very hard, and I'm a pretty competent cyclist. But right here you see Simon's in front, and for whatever reason, Nino thought this was a good time to pass. It completely caught me off guard, but he passes him on the left and digs deep again and hits a pretty substantial sprint. Gets a good safe gap in front, and then they start going through some pretty fast downhills rolling, you'll see here in a second. Without any really coaching on this particular aspect, Nino did this all on his own. This was not planned for the race. We had not even discussed it. And so kind of looking at it from this point, pretty impressive sprint and attack at that particular spot. And it worked for him. Put him in a really good place because Simon is an extraordinarily talented downhill rider. He's very, very, very fast when it's flat, technical, and downhill. You'll see it here in a little while because he catches back up. So for the next few minutes, Nino is kind of off the front in his particular age. He catches many of the older kids and other individuals that are racing on the trail in that particular wave. He's rolling through on some pretty fast single-track trail right at this particular section of trail. But just give me a minute, because there's really no action for just a little bit to talk about what we're going to be next. So we'll be in Danville in 2 weeks at the USMTB Junior Series at the Showdown at Anglers Ridge. So the trail at Anglers Ridge will be there. I think it's on April 12th or 13th. It's a Sunday. And we'll be lining up again. It's usually a very, very, very stacked race, and we're excited about being down there. Our next video actually will be next Thursday. We're going to do a pre-ride for the Showdown Anglers Ridge, and we're going to meet our friend Ray Taylor, who lives in Danville and helped kind of design the course for the particular race years ago. And so we're going to actually go down there, ride with him, do a pre-ride, and then try to release that video out sometime late next week. so that anybody that doesn't have a chance to pre-ride can at least watch Nino's perspective from his head cam or front of the bike cam to get an idea what the trail looks like and how it flows, because we've had close to 500 views with our Woolwine video, so we're going to continue to do that when we can. And so stay tuned for later this week. Check back, follow the video, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notifications on when that video is released. And if you're coming to the showdown at Anglers Ridge, or you just want to ride the trails, there are great trails over there. You can watch Nino's video and kind of get a insight of what the trail looks like, any technical spots, any uphills, etc. And we'll have that released by the first of next week, weather permitting and health permitting. So follow along the rest of this video, and here in a little bit it picks up some significant action. Coming up here is one of the few times from this particular race that Nino and I had to have a little father-son talk. And Nino decided that it was the appropriate time to stop in the middle of the trail and check to see if his camera was still on and working. And so I had to kind of explain that during the race, it's kind of really never an appropriate time to do that. And if it falls off, that we'll go on a hunt for the camera, but not to stop during the race. So here in a second, you're going to see in an absolute ridiculous place where you're supposed to be going 10, 12 miles an hour, Nino decides to lock his brakes up, stop, hop off the bike, and look to see if his camera's there. It only takes maybe 5 seconds, but the amount of time that he slows up and then the amount of time it takes him to get going again, with all of these different things that happen with having to stop and run his bike and just looking at your camera, and you look at your final finish time and you see, like, there's potentially another minute or two of improvement available even at his age now, and it's kind of almost disbelief thinking about that. But so anyways, we had the father-son talk about how you don't do that. We stop for people that are hurt or need help, but not to check for a camera or a computer. We'll just come back and get those types of things. So lesson learned. Fortunately, this particular race, it didn't make any giant impact, but it could have, because here in a little bit you're going to see somebody that's real fast starting to catch back up.
I'm trying.
So this section of trail coming up is what the locals refer to as the Creekside Downhill. It runs along the Little Widgeon Creek, which eventually goes into Smith River. But the way the trail is designed, it kind of follows along this creek here in a little bit. And it's absolutely a beautiful section. It's kind of like when you go to an amusement park, you have your favorite roller coaster, or when you go to a restaurant, you have your favorite dish, or whatever causes you to go to the particular place. Well, this is one of the reasons why people like to come to Woolwine. Woolwine's full of tough trails and some significant climbs, but it's got some of these rewarding downhills. And they are, I mean, just so much fun. And I've ridden this particular section of trail probably 1,000 times. And it's one of those things that you can go so fast, and it's absolutely so much fun. And the people that have raced there or ridden here and watching this video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so you're going to see Nino going down into an area and flying, going 15, 20 miles an hour, and more technical areas here with some rock gardens and rock drops. And eventually it gets into the actual Creekside Downhill, which is almost about a mile long. Nino's rolling on pretty good, probably thinking everything's safe, and he's got this race in the bag. And but little does he know that old Simon is pretty fast going downhill. And so towards the end of Creekside Downhill, we'll pan the camera around, and you'll get to see Simon on the green bike kind of glows a little bit when you get the right angle. And here Simon catches back up to Nino. And we knew that Simon, is a phenomenal rider and never take him lightly. But I'm sure it caught Nino off guard, and that's kind of why the significance of stopping for the camera and all those things kind of come into play. But here nor there, causes for some more action on the trail, which is always good. It's exciting, and that's what we want. We want to push Nino. He's stepping up into the 9-10-year-old division, and we want him to have the hardest competition that is possible for him to be able to do at his age. And Simon provided that on this particular race. So watch this section here, watch how Nino navigates some of the rock gardens, and then watch how Simon creeps back into play here. And it's pretty funny what they discuss with each other when that happens. As you see what I'm talking about, this is the Creekside Downhill, and Nino is rolling on super fast. And here in just a few seconds, we're going to pan around, and you're going to get to see Simon, and he's clawing back into the race. And that's how mountain bike goes. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's the exact same if you're 70 or if you're 7. You might think you're all alone, and you have to have this internal willpower to drive yourself to keep going fast when nobody's around. It's like the old saying of do the right thing when nobody's looking. But that's kind of how it is in mountain biking. You got to push hard when nobody's around, because if you don't, you can about guarantee that the person that still wants to win that race is going to push harder to try to catch back up. And there's so many things that are potentially out there that can slow you up or mess you up. And but the number one thing that will do it is your mind. And if you don't have your mind right, and you cannot have that internal drive to make yourself go when nobody's around, the other people start to creep back in, especially when they're experienced and have enhanced skills in certain areas. And so here in just a second, you're going to see Simon. He's used this downhill and his big wheels on a bigger bike, bigger kid, older, powerful, stronger, and he uses all that muscle and determination, and he catches right back up to Nino. All right, so coming up, you're going to get some friendly jabs between each other verbally. These two kids are good buddies. They've been playing all morning long. But I noticed a trend throughout the entire race where they were asking each other, are they tired yet? So you'll hear Nino ask Simon, is he tired yet? And then when they're going up the steep hill, Simon turns around and asks Nino, are you tired yet? And this is even at that young age of 8 and 10 years old, they're starting to play those little bit of mind games that you see at the more professional level. And I thought it was really interesting that it's all in friendly competition and they're being respectful to each other, but they're still trying to sort out, how the other one feels and do they still have a chance. And I really thought that was an extremely interesting thing to be their age. All right, so you got to hear the verbal jabs, all in friendly fun, but now they're back on the log road, and they're about to come out to what we call the feed zone before they go to the second half of the trail. You can see Simon is in a prime spot right on Nino, and they're rolling on pretty fast, but they're getting ready to go into the second half of the trail, which has got around a mile and a half long climb. It's not steady the entire time, but it has got pitches that are very steep. And I was very shocked because this was not pre-planned, was not discussed. But Nino, even at his young age of 8 years old, has just got a gift of knowing how to race a bike and knowing when to do the right things that help him in a race, which is quite shocking to not have a lot of experience with these types of things. Because to be honest with you, most of the races you just don't have this type of competition. But anyways, Nino burns a match, and he puts out a sprint going up one of these hills, and you start to see the separation come. As you see him go through the feed zone right there, it was amazing to see all the spectators. We had, I would say, 300 to 400 people that came to the trails, around 150 competitors, but we had, for every competitor, 1 or 2 people that were spectating, plus people in the community coming to watch, and all the people that were helping volunteer. And it was people everywhere clapping and cheering on, especially the juniors. The juniors had, I think, a standing ovation, I guess. But here nor there, when he comes around the feed zone, you got all these people yelling and cheering for the people that they want to see win, and it was really cool because it makes that adrenaline pump that much more. But as you see Nino go into the trail, this is where he kicks it, and he puts in one of those digs, and he starts to get the separation between him and Simon.
Simon! Come on, man! I want to challenge! Put it all up now!
So that section right there of the video is where, as a parent, you sitting there is, do I get mad about this, or am I so proud of him that I don't really know what to say? He is not talking trash in a negative way. He genuinely wanted Simon to bring the fight and give him everything he had. Nino is that type of kid. He wants it to be hard. The harder it is, the better he does. And like I said, it's just few people like that in the world. And who knows if he'll always be like this. I hope that he is. But clearly he is that way now. And any person that gets to ride with him knows that he's that way. But he made the attack on Simon. Simon's coming, and they're in a section of trail where they're separated by about 20 yards of woods, but they could see each other. And so you hear Nino yell out, "Come on, Simon." I want a challenge. We put it all out there now. And that wasn't talking trash saying, I got you. It was Nino saying, give me everything you got because I want to see where I'm at and I want to see where you're at. And I thought that was an amazing part of the video. But from that point right there, Nino just guns it again. He takes off. And from here, it's just a long, steady climb with, a couple breaks, but steep pitches. And everywhere there was a chance, Nino digs in deep, and the separation just continues to grow and grow. So at this part of the trail is really the first time that my good friend Darren Lehman was able to ride with Nino. At Nino's age, the 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, even sometimes the 11 and 12-year-olds, it's not uncommon to have a parent or brother or teammate ride along behind them and just be there, because if anything was to happen at that age, they're just not old enough to realize, how to get back to the trail. So it's quite common for the older people to ride alongside and make sure it's safe. However, in this race, it had been a race the entire time, so Darren had not been able to be a part of the race behind Nino. He was trying to make sure he was staying back and making sure that Sebastian, Simon, and Nino were able to sort out their own race and not being interfered with. They were having enough interference from all the people that they were passing. So Darren stayed back, but after Nino's attack going in the second half of the trail, there's a pretty substantial gap there. And so Darren, knowing the course from being a local, was able to cut through the woods and get right behind Nino. And this was the first time that Nino actually had anybody alongside him. And for the past couple of years in pretty much every mountain bike race, he's had somebody along the trail riding behind him and making sure that he's riding safe. So you'll hear Darren kind of giving him some encouraging words and pushing him along, say, go fast now, you got it, be careful here. And I really kudos to Darren for being able to do that, because where I was promoting the race and Bethany was helping with registration, the two people that typically ride with Nino and he's comfortable with were not able to do that. And there's only a few other people that he's really comfortable with, and Darren was one of them. So I asked Darren to step in and do this for us, and he was happy to do so. But unfortunately, until the last part of the race, he was actually able to be in play. But by this point, the race is kind of sorted out, barring any type of misfortune. But continue to watch along, and I'll show you a couple really cool things. And again, thanks to Darren Lehman for stepping in and helping where Bethany and I were busy. And I'm sure Nino really appreciates it.
Come on. Get top this hill. Big push, big push. There you go. Good job. Good job. Don't let it. You're almost to the top. Level off. Take you a little bit of a... There you go.
As you can see, this is a really fast uphill. I said that it's a mile and a half uphill, and it is, and you climb several hundred feet. But I've ridden hundreds, if not 1,000 trails or better. It's one of those sections of the trails that, even though you're going uphill, somehow it's still fun. And Nino kind of makes the video make it look easy, really. But he really used this section of trail to get a pretty substantial time separate. You saw at the bottom when they went into the woods, they were within just a few seconds of each other. And the longer they climbed, the bigger this gap grew. And Nino does an incredible job of sprinting at the right places at the right time, but taking it safe in the right places at the right time. And as a result of that, it's just kind of like the rubber band that keeps stretching, and eventually it breaks. And that's kind of how racing is, especially when you get later into the race. And though for Nino, who does 50, 60, and about to be 70-mile rides, commonly on the bike 4, 5, 6 hours even, a 6.5-mile race isn't very long. But when you're going 6.5 miles nearly as fast as you can with the stress and the adrenaline rush from racing and trying to do your best, the longer it goes into that particular race, the harder it gets. And so even at a short race like that for Nino, it does start to get hard towards the end. But he continued to kind of put the puzzle piece together, and amazingly just almost had a near perfect ride, with excepting a couple of these mishaps at the very beginning that I really don't think they could have did anything about. At the conclusion of this race, he had one of his good friends, Tyler, come up to him and say something along the lines of, "Nino, man, you're fast." And Nino's response to him probably should have been, "Thank you." But, I guess I beat it in his head all winter long, is practice makes perfect. And I just want to take a second to really emphasize that for any of the other kids or people that are getting into cycling and watching this. It does. It makes perfect. It makes people perfect. Practice makes perfect. And Nino practiced perfectly. And as a result, it really came together for him. And, I hope he continues to have good success this year. And it's going to continue to take a lot of riding and practicing and stuff like that. But all through winter and the hard stuff that he did and the sprints that he did on his own many a times, to be 8 years old and to be able to have the willpower to want to do that, just to be able to come to these types of races and perform well, it's just something that you just don't see very often. And so, I just want to take a minute to talk about practice makes perfect, because Nino really, really showcased that. And he put so much time in all winter long, and it really, really showed in this particular race. So coming up in just a couple seconds, Nino makes a pass on one of the older riders, and he starts to go down a pretty significant downhill, and we call it like a swooping bridge. And this is a pretty significant part in Nino's life, because when he first started mountain biking when he was 5 years old, we were there one October when the leaves were falling, and Nino did absolutely nothing wrong. It's just being inexperienced. And it was one of those things where no matter what I did, I could not help him. But he was going down this really steep hill, and at the time he really wasn't going fast. He was just so little. But he grabbed a handful of brakes and he started to slide in the leaves. He let go of the brakes and he started sliding the leaves, and he let go of the brakes. And next thing you know, he gets what I call window shaded, where you kind of get flipped over and you don't really expect it to happen. And at the time, we didn't have a full-face helmet on him, and the poor little guy ended up shoving the bridge boards right into his face, which required to have 2 surgeries. I'll never forget one of my friends saying, "Well, yeah, he's fast, he go down real fast, but he hadn't been injured yet." And I'm like, "You hadn't heard?" So, even at his age of 8, he's had these like life-scarring injuries. And so, when he's coming back to Woolwine this year and we start riding again, kind of in preparation for this race a couple weeks ago, I remember him being timid again going down this hill. And so it was really refreshing getting to see him kind of overcome those monsters in his mind. And he put that all aside, and he knows and he's confident that he had the skills to navigate this bridge at speed. And he goes right through this swooping bridge, which caused him 2 surgeries and lots of pain and a lot of time away from his friends and church and school, and a real kind of sad time for me and Bethany watching him suffer. And so, but this really made up for it, because he went through this trail and through this particular bridge, what caused him a lot of pain, and he kind of like gave it back to it. And he just goes right up through the other side and sprints the next hill. So watch this section coming up. well, my timing got off for that particular section, but it was the bridge where he was going down a really fast hill and up the other side. That's where he had his crash. But coming up here, we're getting very close to the conclusion of the race, and big props to Darren for giving some solid advice. He kind of knew that Nino had this race, barring any type of incident. And so, he's telling Nino to push in the right places. But when it gets into one of the more technical sections towards the end, you can hear Darren say, don't take any chances, something along those lines. And that was the right advice at the right time. And so Nino comes through here. He's still going fast, and he's still, he's not letting up much at all. But, where you can maybe make up 1 more second or 2 more seconds if you push a little bit harder, I noticed from riding with him as much as I do that he let off just a little bit to make sure that he navigated through it all and didn't have any mechanicals with his bike. So watch this last little bit before he gets into the field and brings it all home. And you saw back just a second ago, Nino made a pass on one of his real good buddies, Tyler. Tyler races for the awesome Clemens bicycle racing team, and he's in the 11-12-year-old division, and he was the champion of that. Congratulations to Tyler. Nino was able to catch up, but Nino was scorching fast on his home course, and Tyler had a big day. He won that race, and then he turned around, and on the following day had NICA scheduled. So he was racing back-to-back days, and I imagine it's taking probably a little bit easier at the Bootleggers race as well, just to save a little bit of energy for Saturday. So kudos to Tyler for his victory, and look forward to seeing him have a great year too. So you see Nino navigating this last section of moderately technical trail. I showed the video of Darren from the back of the camera just to kind of give perspective of all the roots and drops and tight little turns. It's really fun, but it is a fairly technical section of trail, especially when you're going 10, 15, some people maybe even 20 miles an hour. But he's about to finish up with that, come across this last bridge, and then over the beautiful rock drop kind of that leads into the soccer field, and bring it back home. And I'll give you a little final summary at the end. So he's sprint finishing to the line here, going through the little paved walking trail into the chicane section that leads you to the sprint finish. And he kind of hammered down the rest of the way, had a great race, and ended up taking the top spot at the first race of the USMTB Junior Series. Simon was able to get second in an amazing race with incredibly fast time to be a 10-year-old. And then Sebastian was third, and a little fellow named Lucas ended up being fourth. They only had 4 in their class, but that's about an average number for this particular age. But these are top quality riders, and some of the best in the nation. Simon was third last year at Nationals, and Sebastian was last year's series champion. And so the fight is a 12-race series, and all of them don't hit all the same races, but hopefully they'll be back on course together soon and get to have more battles, and everybody will continue to improve. And it's been a pretty phenomenal series, at least from race 1. We had a big turnout in some of the classes, 10, 15 people. And so, like I said, we'll be at Showdown at Anglers Ridge, April 12th or 13th, and then Lake Crabtree, the 26th of April. But great job. Nino, this particular race, ended up taking the top spot, and I think he had right about a 2-minute gap from second. And like I said, all that gap was made in the second half of the trail. So once he decided to kind of light the firecracker and go, that kind of was what did it. But hey, I really appreciate you watching this particular video.